Welcome back, and this is the history of Pope Francis. My name is Daniel Juma, and this is Kaka JTV. Pope Francis was born in the year 1936, 17th of December, at Buenos Aires, Argentina. Pope Francis is the 266th Pope of the Catholic Church. He made history as the first Jesuit Pope and the first from the Americans. Elected on March 13th of 2013, he succeeded Pope Benedict XVI. Known for his progressive views, Pope Francis has always focused on social justice and environmental issues and interfaith dialogue. His choice to name Francis honors Saint Francis Assisi, reflecting his commitment to humility and care for the poor. His papacy has brought significant changes and sparked global conversations. Let us now dive into his early years of education. He attended a Salesian school in San Miguel, where he received his primary education. He then moved to Colegio Nacional and Buenos Aires for his secondary education. His theological studies studied philosophy at the University of Buenos Aires and later theology at the seminary of Villa Devoto. He was ordained as a priest in the year 1969, the 13th of December. Before becoming Pope, Pope Francis had a rich history of service within the church, and his journey through priesthood and ministry is marked by dedication and leadership. After his ordination, he worked as a parish priest in several Buenos Aires neighborhoods. He also served as a teacher and a spiritual director. In the year 1973, he joined the Society of Jesus Jesuits and began his novitiate. Took his final vows in 1975. In 1986, he was appointed as a provincial superior of the Jesuit in Argentina, a position he held until 1990. His work as a bishop and his rise within the church hierarchy continued as he took on more significant roles, eventually becoming a cardinal. In 1992, he was appointed a bishop of Fedimal, a small diocese of Patagonia. He served until 1997. In 1998, he became an archbishop of Buenos Aires, a position he held until election as pope in the year 2013. As a cardinal, influence grew as he was elevated in the rank of cardinal, setting his stage for the future election as the Pope. In 2001, he was elevated to the rank of cardinal by Pope John Paul II. He was given the title of the Cardinal Priest of San Roberto Bellarmino. The election of Pope Francis marked his historic moment of the Catholic Church. His election was notable for several reasons. The call and elected Pope Francis began on March 12, 2013, following a resignation of Pope Benedict XVI, as he was elected as the second day of the call. Pope Francis is the first Jesuit to be elected Pope in the history of the Catholic and the Roman Catholic Church. The name Francis holds significant meaning and reflects values of Pope Francis aims to embody. The name Francis was chosen in honor of Saint Francis of Assisi, known for his love and nature and his commitment to the poor. Pope Francis' first international trip set to the tone of his papacy, focusing on young and global outreach. In Brazil, Pope Francis' first international trip was to Brazil in the year 2013 for the World Youth Day celebrations. Pope Francis was authored several important documents that address the key issues facing the Church and the world at large. Pope Francis co-authored the In Clinical Lumen Fidel with Pope Benedict XVI, which was published in the year 2013. He also called the greater compassion and support for the refugees and immigrants, often criticizing the policies that discriminate against the above categories. Pope Francis has made a significant effort to promote interfaith dialogue and understanding among different religions or religious communities. Pope Francis has engaged with interfaith dialogue with leaders of various religions, promoting mutual understanding and respect. He has strengthened relations with the Jewish community, particularly through his visit to the Western Wall in 2014. According to CBS News, Pope Francis' death on Monday at the age of 88 comes after a Catholic leader experienced a number of health issues in recent years. Francis died at 7:35 a.m. on Monday at his residence, the Vatican said. In a statement released on Monday, the Vatican said Pope Francis died of a cerebral stroke, coma, and subsequent irreversible heart failure. Pope Francis died on Monday at the age of 88, and this comes after a Catholic leader experienced a number of health issues in the recent years. Francis died at 7:35 a.m. on Monday at his residence, the Vatican said. In a statement released on Monday, the Vatican said Francis died of a cerebral stroke, coma, and subsequent irreversible heart failure. We don't have a lot of details, said CBS News chief medical correspondent Dr. John Lapook, but the bottom line is, he had all these underlying conditions. He had a stroke, which is when you have a too little blood supply in the brain. That can cause death in a number of ways, including shutting down the centers in the brain that allow to breathe normally, and even the centers that allow the heart to work correctly. The Pope, who had part of the lung removed as a young man, long battled health problems, and he was especially prone to respiratory illness. He was hospitalized for 5 weeks with this winter after developing terrible pneumonia. In July 2021, he spent 10 days in hospital following intestinal surgery for bowel narrowing. In March 2023, he was hospitalized for 3 days and received intravenous antibiotics for bronchitis. A few months later, in June 2023, he was back in the hospital to have surgery to removal of intestinal scar tissue and repair hernia in the abdominal wall. Since 2022, he often used a wheelchair walker, all came due to the knee injuries that he suffered recently from multiple falls. He is a breakdown of his most recent bout of health challenges revealed this year. On February 6th of 2025, Francis was diagnosed with bronchitis, but continued to hold daily audiences through he handed off his speeches for an aide of read aloud, saying he was having trouble in breathing. In February 14, 2025, Francis was hospitalized to treat bronchitis, undergoing a diagnostic test, a spokesperson said, as he was expected to be there for a few days. In February 17, 2025, Pope Francis' respiratory tract infection presented a complex clinical picture that required further hospitalization. The Vatican said at the time. Vatican spokesperson Matteo Bruni said tests indicated that the Pope was suffering from binomial respiratory tract infection that called for further change in his drug therapy. In 18th of February 2025, Pope Francis develops a bilateral pneumonia, meaning the pneumonia was both of his lungs. The illness was discovered after Francis underwent a chest CT scan, that the Vatican said. According to the statement, Francis was in good mood and spent the day resting, praying, and reading. In February 23, 2025, Francis remained in a critical condition as blood tests showed early kidney failure. The Vatican said he remained alert and well-oriented. While he hadn't had any more respiratory crisis since the night before, he was still receiving high flows of supplement oxygen. In February 26th of 2025, blood tests confirmed a slight improvement in the Pope's health. According to a Vatican update, the slight kidney insufficiency detected a few days prior had receded. Francis continued to receive respiratory physiotherapy to help him expel fluid from his lungs. On 28th of February 2025, Francis experienced a bronchospasm, which is when the muscles that line the airways in the lungs tighten. The incident caused him to inhale vomit, but he responded well to being treated with non-invasive mechanical ventilation, according to the Vatican. On March 1st, 2025, Pope Francis had a calm night after the bronchial crisis caused setback in his recovery. In his update, the Vatican said that he had coffee, read newspaper, and was able to move and sit in his chair. On March 3rd, 2025, Francis suffered 2 episodes of acute respiratory failure over the course of the day, which the Vatican said were caused by significant accumulation of endobronchial mucus and consequent bronchospasm. In 8th March of 2025, the Vatican said that Pope Francis was showing gradual slight improvement amid his pneumonia treatment. On March 10, 2025, doctors said Pope Francis was no longer in imminent danger of death from pneumonia, but they decided to keep him in hospital longer to receive treatment. In March 14th of 2025, Francis marked the 12th anniversary of his papacy from his hospital room. It was also the 1 month marked since he was hospitalized. In March 23rd, 2025, after 5 weeks, Francis left Romeo's Camille Hospital after surviving the life-threatening bout of pneumonia. In March 26th of 2025, an interview with Dr. Sergio, the head of Pope Francis' medical team, revealed that Francis came close to his dying on 2 separate occasions before he was allowed to return to his home at the Vatican over the weekend. The doctor told an Italian newspaper that the medical team, even considering letting the Pope die at one critical point on February 28th, when Francis had suffered a breathing crisis after inhaling his own vomit during a coughing fit. The doctor described the worst day of Pope's 38th day in hospital. Amidst all the battles of the above discussions on his medical and illness process, Pope Francis died on Easter Monday, aged 88. Pope Francis died on Easter. This is according to the Cardinal Kevin Farrell of the Holy Roman Catholic Church, who announced the death of Pope Francis from the Casa Santa Martha with these words: "Dearest brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow, I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis at 7:35 this morning. The Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to service of the Lord and of His Church. He taught us to live the values of gospel in fidelity, courage, and universal love, especially in the favor of the poorest and most marginalized. With immense gratitude for his example as the true disciple of the Lord Jesus, we commend the soul of Pope Francis to the infinite merciful love of the one and triune God." The rector of the Holy See Press Office told journalists later Monday that the latest Pope's body will be transferred to St. Peter's Basilica on Wednesday morning so that the faithful may pray before his mortal remains. The translation of the Holy Father's mortal remains to the Vatican Basilica for the veneration of the faithful may take place on the morning of Wednesday, April 25, according to the arrangements that shall be determined, communicated on the following day. May Pope Francis rest in eternal peace.